I'll never forget the first day I heard it. It was in a class discussion of Orwell's 1984. One of the students said something like, "I feel that Winston is very thoughtful, where Julia is more physical and practical." Excuse me? What did you just say? You feel Winston is thoughtful? I had never heard that before. Until that moment, everyone always said, "I think," before expressing an opinion. There's a reason for this. Saying "I feel" instead of "I think" is an indicator of a huge shift in our culture that's reflected in our language, and I don't think it's a very good one. We used to say "I feel" and "I believe" and "I think" in different circumstances. We used to say "I feel" when we felt something physically or emotionally. I feel cold. You said fine, but I feel like there's something wrong. I feel uncomfortable being alone in the elevator with that man. I feel good about the Seahawks' chances in the game against Philadelphia this afternoon. We said "I believe" when something had to do with convictions. I believe often involved a great deal of rational thought, but there is an acknowledgement that support for that position cannot be reduced to logic. I believe that gratitude is foundational to a happy life. I believe everyone ought to plant daffodils and tulips in November. I believe zombie narratives have a prophetic role in our culture. I believe the Jays have a rotation that can go all the way this year. I think expresses something different than I feel and I believe. I think means that you are expressing an opinion for which there are rational grounds. I think The Shawshank Redemption is a brilliant film. I think one's Facebook feed is a very bad place to get one's news. I think the phrase "I feel" is overused. I think Winston is very thoughtful, whereas Julia is more physical and practical. I feel doesn't have anything to do with opinions. You don't feel opinions. I feel is about senses or emotions and maybe intuitions and perceptions. Our language has changed. Now everyone says "I feel" about everything. Not just my students, and all of them, but adults do too, including politicians and pastors. Our language has changed because our world has changed. So what has changed? We used to accept an external authority, the gods or God, the good, the true, and the beautiful, or reason. These were all outside of us. We used to trust in the existence of truth and that it might be known. We trusted in scientific expertise and experimental evidence. We generally used to trust the systems of public administration. Whether it came from God or a social contract, we accepted the authority of a moral code. Some things were right and some things were wrong. Truth and morality were external and objective, and we tried to align our lives with them. And when we expressed an opinion, we said "I think." It implied that we had thought about something in the light of faith, knowledge, experience, and reason. And then we broke up with God, and with reason, and with everything else that was transcendent. There was no longer anything up there. Reason and morality lost their foundation. And without these, why trust in science and government or the church? So these no longer have any authority over our lives. And for the same reason we lost truth, we also lost meaning and purpose. Because they could no longer live up there, truth and meaning and purpose had to move somewhere else, to the only place they could go, inside. So now I look inside me to find meaning and purpose and truth. And our feelings are the foundation to them all. Nothing else can be. Feelings are authoritative. They are the boss. The individual determines what is good and true and beautiful for themselves, and they determine their own meaning and purpose. In this sense, the individual takes over the role that God used to fill. I align my life around my feelings. I trust them. When I first heard my students say "I feel" instead of "I think," I thought they were just being sensitive, because it sounded softer or less assertive. But I wonder if it's not actually more assertive. When we used to say "I think," we weren't fundamentally trying to win an argument or prove the other person was wrong. We were seeking agreement with others. We were, in a sense, seeking peace. When I say "I feel," it's not the same thing. We aren't looking for confirmation. We aren't seeking peace. It's declarative, dogmatic even. We are proclaiming the truth based on the only authority that exists, my personal feelings. In my next video on this topic, we will be talking about how individualism tends to permeate so much of what we do in the church, and we don't even see it. Thank you, and we'll see you there.